My beloved brothers and sisters, you keep thinking something's wrong with you. You say, I'm tired, I'm not motivated anymore. But what if this is not your downfall? What if Allah is gently shutting down the version of you that was only built to survive, so He can raise the version of you that was meant to surrender? When Allah drains the version of you that can't carry destiny, sometimes the most painful part of your life is not when someone leaves you, or when a door closes, or even when the world turns its back on you. No, sometimes the deepest pain comes from within. It comes when you look in the mirror and you don't recognize the person staring back. You're not yourself anymore. You don't laugh the way you used to. You don't feel motivated like before. Even your dreams feel foreign. And deep down, you begin to ask a question you've never said out loud. What's happening to me? My brother, my sister, what's happening to you is not failure. It's not weakness. And it's not because you're losing your worth. It's because you're outgrowing the version of yourself that was never meant to last forever. There was a time when that version of you was necessary. You built it during your hardest days. You shaped it in silence, through heartbreak, through disappointment. You became strong because you had to be strong. You became the one who kept it together because no one else would. You fought battles no one saw. You cried alone and wiped your own tears. You smiled when you wanted to scream. You kept going even when your soul begged for rest. That version of you was brave. That version of you was powerful. It helped you survive what would have broken most people. But now Allah is saying to you, you don't need to live like that anymore. You see, that version of you, the one who lived in survival mode, the one who built walls around their heart, the one who ran on pressure, performance, and pain, that version was built for a storm that has already passed. And what's ahead of you now requires someone different. So Allah, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, starts to gently break down the shell you once lived in. Not because He's cruel, but because He knows it can't carry the weight of what's coming next. So you start feeling things you can't explain. You feel tired all the time, not just physically, but spiritually. You no longer enjoy what used to excite you. Your goals start to shift. Your energy fades. You can't force yourself to be who you were anymore. And you panic. You think something's wrong. You wonder if you're becoming lazy, ungrateful, unproductive. But the truth is, you're being transformed, not punished. Transformed. You are being pulled away from who you had to be so that Allah can show you who you're meant to be. The version of you that was built on survival is now being replaced with a version built on submission. A version that doesn't just push through the pain, but one that learns to heal through it. A version that doesn't wear fake strength, but walks with real softness and trust in Allah. And yes, this change is painful. It's confusing. It's slow. You feel like everything is falling apart inside you. You can't describe it. You just know you're not who you used to be, and you're not yet who you're becoming. This in-between space, this silence, this tiredness, this emotional fog is not darkness. It's sacred space. It's where Allah is rebuilding you piece by piece, layer by layer, removing everything that was rooted in fear and replacing it with faith. So when you feel weak, when you feel like you can't pretend to be okay anymore, when even smiling feels heavy, know this: Allah sees you. He sees the effort behind your silence. He sees the weight behind your tired eyes. He sees the old version of you trying to hang on, and the new version of you quietly being born. You are not broken. You are being softened. You are not falling apart. You are being released. You are not losing motivation. You are losing the pressure to perform and becoming real with your soul. And one day, maybe not today, maybe not even next week, but one day, you'll wake up and you'll feel something new. A calm you haven't felt before. A clarity you thought was gone. A strength that doesn't need to shout. And that's when you'll realize what Allah was doing all along. He wasn't destroying you. He was removing the old you that was built to impress people so He could raise the real you that was built to walk with Him. So if you're in that space now where nothing makes sense and you feel like you've lost the fire that once pushed you, don't fear. You are not behind. You are not failing. You are not being left behind by Allah. You are being prepared. Quietly, silently, lovingly, and when you rise again, you'll rise for the sake of Allah, not the world. And in that rise, you will finally understand why He made the old you so tired. Spiritual exhaustion is not laziness, it's a divine shutdown. You wake up, but your heart doesn't. You slept for hours, but you still feel heavy. You try to push yourself to get up, but even small things feel difficult now. The to-do list stares at you, but your soul turns away. You try to pray, you want to feel it, but your chest is tight and the tears don't come. And in that moment, you begin to whisper to yourself, am I becoming lazy? Is something wrong with my iman? Why am I like this? Let me tell you, with love and clarity, this is not laziness. This is not failure. This is not a punishment from Allah. What you're feeling is not weakness of character. It's not a lack of faith. It's something much more divine and much more sacred. You are experiencing what I call a divine shutdown. Because sometimes Allah knows your soul is too wounded to keep running. He knows you've been holding too much for too long. He knows you've been functioning in pain while telling the world, I'm okay. He knows you've kept showing up even though your heart is exhausted. He knows the smile has been forced. He knows the strength has been stretched thin. And so He steps in, not with thunder, not with punishment, but with a kind, quiet hand that begins to pause your system. He slows your steps. He closes the doors you used to run through. He dims the things that used to excite you. He lets the fire go out so He can rebuild the flame from its root. This shutdown is not your defeat. It's your divine protection. You were running too far in a direction that wasn't good for your heart. You were chasing things that were feeding your ego but starving your soul. You were surviving on empty fuel, and Allah could see you were about to crash. So He did what only the most loving can do. He gently pressed pause, because He didn't create you to live in burnout. He didn't place you on earth to serve people at the cost of breaking yourself. He didn't give you this body and soul so you could worship your own productivity and forget your purpose. You see, this exhaustion you feel now is not the end of your story. It's the start of a redirection. It's Allah calling you back, not just to Him, but to yourself. Because somewhere along the way, you forgot how to breathe. You forgot how to rest. You forgot that you are not a machine. You are not just output and progress. You are a soul, a sacred creation, and your Creator wants to heal you. So what does He do? He lets your motivation fade. He allows your old routines to stop working. He makes your usual energy disappear. So you will finally stop and ask the question He's been waiting for. Ya Allah, what's really happening to me? And that's when He begins the real transformation. Not by forcing you, not by yelling at you, but by sitting your soul down and saying gently, let me carry this for a while. That's why you feel still. That's why your heart is quieter. That's why everything feels slow, even though the world keeps rushing by. It's not laziness, it's divine quiet. You've been fighting for so long, and now Allah is giving you rest. So stop judging yourself so harshly. Stop comparing your pace to the version of you that was moving, but emotionally bleeding inside. This is not a step back. This is a sacred pause. Allah is holding you still because what He's planting next needs soil that is soft, not trampled by the world, not hardened by burnout, but quiet, still, humble, ready to receive. This is your chance to breathe again, to pray slowly, to sleep with peace, to ask without shame, to return without guilt. And yes, it's okay if you don't feel it yet. It's okay if you still feel confused. It's okay if the energy hasn't come back, because it will, bit by bit, step by step, as Allah refuels you from the inside out. But for now, your only job is to be soft with yourself, to say, Ya Allah, I'm tired, but I trust you, because this stillness you are standing in today is not the grave of who you were. It is the womb of who you are becoming. And when the strength returns, and it will return, you won't run the way you used to. You will walk differently, pray differently, love differently, live differently, because you won't be driven by fear or pressure anymore. You will be driven by peace. And that, my dear brothers and sisters, is how Allah replaces your exhaustion with something far better. Not hype, not hustle, but healing. So if all you did today was survive quietly, that was enough, because Allah sees the strength behind your silence, and He writes it in your book of patience. Allah isn't just rewriting your path, He's rewriting your wiring. You keep asking Allah to change your life. You keep begging for something to shift in your work, in your health, in your relationships, in your future. But what you don't realize is this: before Allah rewrites your life, He rewrites you. He doesn't just change the map, He changes the traveler. Because the new destination He's taking you toward requires a version of you that doesn't exist yet. And so He begins within, where no one sees, where no one understands, where even you don't know what's going on. He starts rewiring your soul. You no longer enjoy the things you used to chase. You no longer get excited by the same distractions. You no longer have the same appetite for noise. You feel disconnected, not just from the world, but even from the old version of you. And it scares you. You think you're becoming distant. You think you're losing your spark, but in reality, you are just being updated by divine hands, because the person you were before wasn't built to carry what's coming. That version of you was motivated by applause, by fear, by survival, by proving others wrong, by healing old wounds with worldly success. But now, Allah is trying to give you real peace. He's trying to shift your motivation from outer pressure to inner purpose. And that shift is not comfortable. It comes with confusion. You wake up and feel strange. Things that once gave you comfort now feel empty. People who once inspired you now drain you. Goals you once obsessed over now make no sense, because your system is being rewired. The circuitry of your soul is being redesigned, not with stress, not with fake strength, but with divine softness. You are being taught how to walk again, but this time with Allah as your guide, not your ego. That's why you're being detached. That's why you're losing things that don't align anymore. That's why you're no longer able to lie to yourself, because this time your story is being written with truth, and the truth requires a different you. So Allah doesn't just change your environment, He changes your lens. How you see, how you react, how you feel, how you decide, and sometimes that makes everything around you feel blurry, like you don't belong in your own skin anymore. That's okay. That's part of the mercy, because the you that belonged in the old season wasn't designed to survive the next one. Allah is rebuilding you from the inside out. He is removing every trace of self-hate. He's deleting every line of identity that was programmed by pain, rejection, and human expectations. He's emptying out the noise that kept you addicted to distraction. He's softening your heart so that you no longer crave what poisons your soul. You are not being erased. You are being realigned. But of course, this kind of internal change is not glamorous. It's not loud. No one sees it. And you can't even explain it. Because how do you explain that your soul is no longer okay with the things that used to keep you comfortable? How do you explain that even worldly success feels hollow now? That your goals feel lifeless, and even your smile feels borrowed? You don't have to explain it, because Allah understands the wiring of your heart better than anyone ever will. He knows what needs to be rewired, and He knows how to do it gently, patiently, perfectly. So let the process happen. Don't panic when you feel numb. Don't force your way back to the old routine. Don't try to revive a version of you that Allah is already trying to replace. You're not lazy. You are being upgraded, but upgrades take time. They take disruption. They take discomfort, because the new system has to replace the old one completely. Let go of the old codes. The need to rush, the need to be perfect, the need to always be in control. Allah is rewiring you for surrender now, not control. And that's why you're being emptied, because He wants to fill you with something that cannot be taken away. You see, when Allah rewrites your wiring, you stop chasing fake peace. You stop trying to impress people. You stop needing to explain yourself. You stop looking for validation in temporary places. And instead, you begin to find joy in things that money can't buy. You feel comfort in stillness. You find beauty in prayer. You feel safe in silence. You feel strong without shouting. And this is what it means to be reborn spiritually. It's not loud. It's not always joyful, but it is pure. So be patient with yourself. If your heart feels strange right now, you are not broken. You are being recalibrated. Allah is preparing a version of you that can walk through fire without panic, that can carry blessings without pride, that can survive trials without losing hope, that can love without attachment, that can trust even when it can't see. And when this version of you rises, you look back at the old you with love, but you'll know you could never go back, because now you finally walk with Allah, and that changes everything. Even the Prophet ﷺ was rebuilt in silence before his rise, before greatness came to him, before the angels descended, before the Qur'an was revealed, before the mission to save humanity even began. The Prophet Muhammad ﷺ was placed into silence, not a silence of weakness, but a silence of sacred preparation. Before the world knew his name, he was just a man sitting in a cave, far away from everything and everyone, including the version of himself he used to be. He would retreat to the cave of Hira, quiet, alone, still, Not because he was running from the world, but because Allah was slowly detaching him from it. And that silence was not a delay. It was not a punishment. It was a divine investment. Because before Allah sends you to walk among people with light, He always makes sure you first learned how to walk alone in the dark. So if you feel like you're in that silence now, that long, quiet, painful pause in your life where nothing makes sense, where no one understands you, where even your own identity feels unclear, then know this: you're not being punished, you're being prepared. The cave moments are not the end, they are the beginning. The Prophet ﷺ didn't rise in the middle of applause. He rose in the middle of silence. He wasn't given the mission while surrounded by people. He was given the mission in private, in stillness, in a moment. So quiet that even the mountains bore witness, because that's how Allah operates. He doesn't always reveal your purpose in public. He builds you in private. The world didn't see the nights he spent alone, the quiet reflections, the prayers whispered only to Allah, the tears shed in confusion, the questions asked in solitude. No one talks about those days because they weren't glamorous, they weren't loud, but they were foundational. And today, you might be walking through your own version of Hira, not a cave made of stone, but a season of isolation so deep, it feels like no one sees you. Your phone is dry, your energy is gone. You try to explain yourself, but people don't understand. You try to smile, but even your smile feels tired. You try to stay consistent, but your heart just wants silence. Don't run from it. That silence you're in, it's not random, it's not empty. It's the very place where Allah is rebuilding you, piece by piece, layer by layer, thought by thought. In this silence, He is showing you what applause couldn't teach you, what friends couldn't guide you to, what success couldn't give you, and what this world never could explain. In silence, you finally hear Him. And when you start hearing Allah in your soul, something inside you begins to awaken. You no longer feel the need to rush. You no longer need everyone to understand you. You no longer panic when things are slow, because you realize silence is not the absence of activity. It's the presence of purpose growing quietly under the surface. When the Prophet ﷺ was alone in that cave, he wasn't useless, he wasn't inactive, he wasn't lost, he was in training. And maybe, just maybe, you are too. Maybe the silence around you right now is proof that your next chapter is too important to be rushed. Maybe what Allah is preparing in you requires separation, so that no one else takes credit for what only He can do. People won't see what Allah is doing inside you. They'll only see the rise later. But you'll always know the truth. The strength didn't come from people. It came from the silence Allah once placed me in. So honor the quiet. Stop running from it. And stop thinking your story has paused. It hasn't. It's just being rewritten in secret. Because when Allah rewrites someone, He does it away from the world. He removes the noise. He takes them away from the crowd. He empties their calendar. He slows their life down. And only then, when the world stops clapping and your soul finally listens, He plants something eternal in your heart. That's what's happening to you now. You feel forgotten because Allah wants you to remember Him. You feel invisible because Allah wants to make your sincerity real. You feel confused because He's clearing your past so your heart has room for something greater. The silence is not the problem. It's the proof that Allah loves you enough to remove distractions before your eyes. Because when He finally reveals your light, You'll no longer depend on the world to keep it burning. And when that happens, when the time is right, He will send you out of your cave, just like He did with the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And you won't rise with noise. You will rise with nur, with purpose, with peace, with complete reliance on your Rabb. The death of all desires is proof that your soul is healing. There was a time in your life when you used to want things that would break you. You used to chase what your soul was never built to carry. You would hold on tightly to people, places, goals, even sins, knowing they didn't serve you, but they felt familiar, they felt comforting, they felt like home, even when they were slowly draining you. And deep down, you knew they weren't good for your heart, but you held on anyway, because the pain of letting go felt scarier than the pain of staying the same. You begged Allah to give you certain things. You cried for them. You planned your life around them. You imagined your peace in their presence. You convinced yourself that this was it, that once you had this, you'd finally feel whole. But Allah, in His infinite wisdom and mercy, knew better. So He began to do something that felt like heartbreak, but was actually healing. He began to close the door to those desires. He began to make the things you once begged for feel heavy, feel empty, feel disconnected from your heart. The sin you once craved, it stopped satisfying you. The relationship you once ran to, it started feeling wrong. The goals that once lit you up, they now feel like chains, and it confused you. You asked yourself, what's happening to me? Why don't I want what I used to love? Why am I feeling numb toward the very things I used to pray for? But the truth is, you're not broken. You're just finally healing, because part of healing is not just letting go of what hurt you. It's losing the desire for what once looked like pleasure, but was actually poison. It's watching your soul grow so quiet, so wise, so clean, that it stops chasing what used to make your heart feel heavy. And that's what's happening to you now. You're not cold. You're not disconnected. You're not being punished. You are simply becoming more aligned with the version of you that doesn't find comfort in harm anymore. This is sacred. This is spiritual maturity. You no longer want the things you had to beg Allah to save you from. You no longer dream about the people He pulled you away from. You no longer fantasize about the life you once knew would lead you astray. That's not failure. That's freedom. Because when Allah heals you, He doesn't just change what's around you. He changes what calls to you. He rewires your appetite. He softens your cravings. He reshapes your taste so that what once felt delicious now tastes like regret. And in that quiet rewiring, you slowly begin to return to your fitra, your original state, the version of you that doesn't crave what harms but longs for what heals. And yes, it's confusing because the mind still remembers the thrill, but the soul knows the truth now. There is a quiet conflict between your old habits and your new wisdom. You still miss certain things. That's normal. But now when you go near them, something inside you pulls back. That pull, that ache, that whisper that says, this doesn't belong to you anymore. That's your soul finally speaking louder than your ego. You have outgrown what once entertained your wounds. And now Allah is calling you to what feeds your iman. You begin to find joy in simpler things. A quiet prayer at night, a sincere dua whispered from your chest, a moment of peace that isn't shared online. You begin to crave less of the world and more of what brings you back to Jannah. And you realize something that breaks you down in tears one night. Ya Allah, You saved me from myself, because without even knowing it, you were chasing people who would have delayed your growth. You were obsessed with outcomes that would have pulled you off your path. You were fighting for things that would have made you lose parts of yourself just to keep them. And now you no longer want them, not because they changed, but because you did. And this shift, this death of your old desires, is proof that Allah is restoring you back to your real self. You're not missing out, you're moving on. And the sadness you feel today is not regret. It's a funeral for the version of you that used to chase what was never written for you. Let it go, let it be buried. Honor the journey, but don't revive what Allah helped you bury. Your soul is not tired, it's finally breathing. Because now you don't need to fight to feel loved. You don't need to beg to feel worthy. You don't need to perform to be accepted. You are beginning to love what Allah loves. And that shift is the greatest healing of all. So the next time you feel strange, because you don't desire what the world tells you to chase, remember this: you are not behind, you are not lost, you are not boring, you are becoming whole again. And your soul is finally returning to the one it was created for. You feel unmotivated because you're done performing for the world. There was a time when you lived for the world's applause, when your every step was measured by how loud the claps were. You worked harder, not because your heart wanted to, but because your image needed to survive. You told yourself it was purpose, but deep down it was pressure. The pressure to be seen, the pressure to be impressive, the pressure to be someone. You'd smile when your soul was aching. You'd post your wins even when you were silently losing. You pushed through exhaustion because you thought people only loved you. When you were achieving something, and slowly, without even realizing it, you started to perform, not just on the outside, but in your deen too. Even your worship became rushed. Your du'as felt like check boxes. Your prayer became a place to ask for success, but not a place to rest. You were running, but you weren't running to Allah. You were running to survive the pressure of being enough. And then it happened. You woke up one day and you couldn't do it anymore. The energy was gone. The fire disappeared. The drive faded. You weren't motivated to chase or to prove or to perform. And that scared you. You thought to yourself, why am I not motivated like I used to be? Why can't I push anymore? Have I become lazy? But no, you didn't become lazy. You became honest. Your soul simply got tired of wearing masks. It got tired of chasing what didn't bring it peace. It got tired of living for screens, for likes, for recognition, for the approval of people who didn't even know what your heart was carrying. You stopped performing because deep down your soul was whispering, I want something real, and real things don't require performance. So now you feel unmotivated, not because you failed, but because you finally had enough. Enough of the pressure, enough of the pretending, enough of being celebrated by the world while feeling empty in your prayers. You've reached a sacred exhaustion, the kind of exhaustion that doesn't come from laziness, but from the soul begging to return to truth. Allah knows this version of you. The one that's too tired to compete anymore, too drained to explain yourself, too numb to chase false purpose. And He loves you in this state. He sees the honesty behind your stillness. He sees the humility in your confusion. He sees that you are no longer looking for fame, you are looking for Him. You are done performing because now you finally want to be present, not present for a crowd. Not present for social media, but present for your soul. And yes, this shift is uncomfortable, because when your identity was built on performance, rest feels like failure, silence feels like danger, slowing down feels like disappearing. But it's not. You're not disappearing. You're reappearing in a form that is real, one that doesn't care about attention, only about intention. You start to care more about how your voice sounds in sajda than how it sounds in a video. You care more about how Allah sees you than how anyone else does. You feel more at home in private moments of dhikr than public moments of recognition. That shift is the beginning of spiritual awakening. It's when the false motivators fade and the true connection begins. So don't be afraid of this low motivation season. Don't hate yourself for not feeling driven. Don't force yourself back into performance just because the world won't understand this version of you. Because this version of you is the one that Allah is shaping gently, lovingly, personally. When you stop performing, you start praying for real. You cry in silence and it feels heavier than 1,000 speeches. You open the Qur'an not to show anyone, but because you miss hearing His voice in your life. And suddenly, you're not motivated to look successful anymore. You're motivated to feel sincere. That's a shift the world won't applaud, but the angels are recording every step. You stop wanting to prove your worth to people and start protecting your soul for the sake of Allah. And in this sacred quiet, your heart begins to breathe again. You start choosing peace over popularity, healing over hustle, worship over worry, presence over performance. Because you finally realize the real you was never the one that got the most attention. The real you was always the one that sat in sujood with a trembling voice saying, Ya Allah, I just want to be close to you again. You feel unmotivated because Allah is removing the pressure to be perfect, so you can finally come back as you are. And you don't need to be impressive. You just need to be sincere. This is your return. Not to the world, but to yourself. And when that return is for Allah, it will be the most powerful comeback of your life. Don't mistake divine deconstruction for failure. You thought things were finally getting better. You were doing your best. You were praying more. You were healing slowly. You were starting to feel okay again. And then suddenly, everything began to fall apart. Your plans collapsed. Your strength disappeared. Your relationships cracked. Your routine broke down. And your heart felt like it was unraveling again. And in that quiet pain, you whispered to yourself, Ya Allah, why does this keep happening to me? You look at your life and all you can see are broken pieces, unfinished things, silent dubas, heavy days. You feel like you're moving backward. You feel like you're failing. But my dear brother, my dear sister, you're not failing. You are being deconstructed by the most merciful. And there's a huge difference. Failure is when you fall with no purpose. But divine deconstruction is when Allah Himself takes apart the version of you that was built in fear, survival, people-pleasing, and false strength, so that He can make room for a version of you that walks with truth, with light, with real peace. You see, sometimes Allah doesn't fix you by adding more. He fixes you by taking things away. He removes what you thought you needed because He knows it was actually blocking your soul. He shakes the foundations of your identity because it was built on sand, not faith. He breaks the routines you idolized because they became habits of distraction, not devotion. And yes, it hurts. It feels like a collapse. It feels like your life is folding in on itself. But just like a home must be torn down if it's unsafe to live in, sometimes your old self needs to fall apart. So Allah can safely build what's next. This is not punishment. This is protection. You don't see it yet, but Allah does. He sees the future heartbreak. He's saving you from. He sees the false success that would have made you arrogant. He sees the hidden sins that were sneaking into your heart beneath the surface of your progress. So He tears it down now. Not to humiliate you, but to humble you. The beautiful kind of humility that leads to Jannah. You're not failing, you're being emptied. So He can fill you with something real. That's why the distractions are falling away. That's why your plans keep breaking. That's why nothing feels stable. Because the version of you that was chasing those things was never meant to carry your next chapter. That version of you, it was strong, yes, but it was built on surviving, built on needing to be seen, built on emotional pressure and spiritual fatigue. Allah is too merciful to let you keep building on something so fragile. So now He deconstructs gently, softly, completely. He removes the people who fed your ego. He blocks the path that pulled you away from Him. He stops the plans that made you trust yourself more than your du'as. He reduces your options. So you finally look back at the one you were quietly drifting from. And in that place, that low, quiet, stripped down place, you learn the most beautiful lesson of all. Ya Allah, I have nothing left to hold on to except You. That moment is not your breaking point. It's your rebirth point. Because real strength doesn't come from stacking wins on top of each other. It comes from standing up with nothing left in your hands except submission. You let go. You fall into sujood. You cry from the depth of your chest, not for the world to see, but just for Him to hear. And in that sujood, you rise, not in the eyes of people, but in the sight of Allah. You see, the pain you feel now is the sound of false foundations crumbling. It's the noise that comes before Allah lays down a stronger base. One rooted in tawakkul, not timelines. One grounded in Qur'an, not claps. One held together by dhikr, not digital success. That's why everything is shaking. That's why it feels like you're losing what made you feel strong. Because Allah is about to show you that His strength was always better than yours. So don't panic. Don't rush to rebuild the broken walls. Don't try to stitch together the old version of you. Let it fall. Let it all come down. Because what rises after divine deconstruction is always closer to Allah. This is how He works with the ones He loves. He clears the space before the blessing arrives. He empties the cup before He fills it with something that overflows. He erases your plans so you'll finally make space for the one plan that can never fail, His. So breathe. You're not broken. You're being returned to fitrah. You're not stuck. You're standing in sacred stillness. You're not failing. You're being made whole again. But this time, the healing is coming from heaven. And when the dust settles, you'll stand in the ruins of who you used to be, with tears in your eyes, and whisper, Ya Allah, now I understand. This wasn't failure. This was freedom. You're not lost. You're just waiting for the real you to rise. You keep waking up with a strange heaviness, like something is missing, like you're falling behind, like everyone around you knows what they're doing, and you're stuck in a fog you can't explain. You try to be present. You try to be grateful. You try to force yourself into the habits you once had, but everything feels off. Your prayers feel flat. Your days feel mechanical. Your dreams feel far away. And slowly, quietly, you start to ask yourself, have I lost who I am? But my dear brother, my beloved sister, let me tell you something with love. You're not lost. You're just waiting for the real version of you to rise. And this version, it's not the one that hustles to be seen. It's not the one that performs under pressure. It's not the one that pretends everything's okay just to keep going. No, this version is deeper, quieter, closer to your soul, closer to your Rabb. That's why everything feels foreign right now, because the old you, the one you've outgrown, no longer fits where your soul is headed. The places you used to go don't comfort you anymore. The goals you once chased feel small now. The people who once validated you can't reach your heart anymore, because something sacred is stirring inside you. It's slow, it's quiet, it's not visible to others, but it's real, so real. You're not disconnected, you're being recentered. You're not wandering, you're being called back to the version of yourself that was written before the world distracted you. You see, the real you is the one who feels most alive in sujood, the one who cries from a verse in the Qur'an, the one who longs for Jannah, not applause, the one who wants peace, not popularity. That version is buried beneath the noise, the pressure, the trauma, the layers of survival you built over the years. And now Allah is gently peeling those layers away. That's why it feels uncomfortable. That's why you feel like you're unraveling. That's why nothing makes sense right now. Because the false attachments are being loosened. The illusions are fading. The ego is quieting. The noise is going silent. So the real voice inside you can finally be heard. You're not falling apart. You're being unfolded. The same way a seed feels buried before it breaks open and grows, you too are in that sacred space where the old shell must break so the roots can form. And yes, it's slow, it's frustrating. You don't see results, you don't feel progress. But trust this, even the sun rises in silence. Even the tree grows underground first. Even the Qur'an was revealed slowly over years, because sacred things take sacred time, and your soul is one of them. So stop telling yourself you're behind. Stop telling yourself you're lost. Stop looking at your life like it's supposed to be complete already. You are in the middle of something sacred, and Allah, the most merciful, is watching over every second of your silent growth. He sees the confusion, He sees the fatigue, He sees the questions you don't know how to ask, and He's not rushing you. He's not disappointed in you. He's not waiting for you to be better. He's already loving you in your current state, even in your waiting, even in your silence, even in your numbness. He's guiding you through a process that you won't fully understand until one day you rise. And you will rise not with noise, not with claps, not with fireworks, but with clarity, with sincerity, with peace. And when you do, you'll feel the difference, because this time you won't be standing on pressure, you'll be standing on truth. You won't be moving for people, you'll be moving for Allah. You won't be performing anymore, you'll be becoming. And that version of you, the one Allah is currently crafting in the dark, will look nothing like the one who questioned their worth. This version will finally understand why the delay was mercy, why the silence was sacred, why the loneliness was preparation, why the pain was a purifier, why the confusion was an answer in disguise. So take a breath. Don't rush the becoming. Don't fear the unknown. Don't chase quick relief. Stay in the process. Stay in the waiting. Stay in the gentle surrender. Because while you feel like you're stuck, He is sending down strength. While you feel invisible, He is building you in full view of the angels. While you feel like you're doing nothing, He is rewriting everything. You're not behind. You're exactly where you need to be. And soon, very soon, the version of you that rises will whisper through tears, Ya Allah, I thought I was lost, but you were guiding me all along. My beloved brothers and sisters, you may feel like you're failing. You may feel tired, confused, lost. But let me tell you something from the depths of my heart. Allah knows what He's doing with you. The emptiness you feel right now, it's not the end of your story. It's the beginning of a beautiful transformation. You are not being left behind. You are being called inward, back to the real you, back to the one who was created with purpose, back to the one who remembers Allah even when it hurts. So don't rush the season. Don't fight what Allah is slowly removing from your life. And please, don't label yourself with words that Allah never wrote in your story. You are not lazy. You are not weak. You are not broken. You are simply being emptied of what no longer belongs to you, so Allah can fill you with what was always written for you. And when you rise again, and you'll rise stronger, softer, clearer, and closer to Allah than ever before. Just hold on. Be patient with yourself and trust that even now, in your silence, Allah is writing something beautiful for you. May Allah make your hidden healing greater than any visible success. And may He raise you in a way that no one can ever take credit for except Him. Ameen.